Todos tienen algo para contar, algo para informar y dejar una huella en un acontecimiento especial. Aquí da inicio Personajes. Acompáñanos el último domingo de cada mes con un invitado estelar, con la entrevista internacional de Angie Mera y la dirección de Alejandro Gómez. Personajes por HKL Radio, más internacional.
Bienvenidos a nuestro espacio periodístico llamado Personajes, el cual será emitido todos los últimos domingos de cada mes a las 6 de la tarde, hora Colombia, con repetición el siguiente domingo a las 2 de la tarde. En Personajes conocerán más a fondo a diferentes personalidades, tanto de Colombia como del mundo. Gente interesante que tiene mucho que compartir con toda nuestra querida audiencia. Yo, Angie Mera, los estaré acompañando en este espacio entrevistando a nuestros personajes. Bienvenidos.
Todos tienen algo para contar, algo para informar y dejar una huella en un acontecimiento especial. Acompáñenos este próximo domingo 25 de mayo en Personajes con un invitado estelar, Jeff Feuer, de nacionalidad norteamericana, actividad profesional, superbroker en Manhattan. Nos hablará de su vida y acerca del mercado inmobiliario en Manhattan, uno de los más costosos en el mundo. En una entrevista exclusiva, Jeff Feuer, este domingo 25 de mayo, 6 de la tarde, con repetición el domingo 1 de junio, 2 de la tarde, en Personajes de HKL Radio, en el 2014, más internacional.
For today we have a special guest, Jeff Feuer, who is a successful real estate agent in Manhattan, New York, and he is here to share with us some of his knowledge of this fascinating business, especially in New York, where the properties are one of the most expensive of the world. Jeff has more than 30 years of experience in the New York City real estate business and has successfully advanced the roles of real estate broker, mentor, and most importantly, friend. Working for one of the most prominent real estate firms in Manhattan, Douglas Elliman, Jeff has combined his marketing skills with his extensive real estate background and knowledge of this industry to successfully execute hundreds of sales. Having taught the real estate licensing courses at New York University School of Continuing Education, it's evident that Jeff possesses a comprehensive knowledge of all aspects of the New York real estate market. Jeff, welcome to HKL International Radio. Thank you so much for being with us. Y para hoy nuestro personaje es Jeff Feuer, quien nos va a educar un poco más acerca del fascinante mundo del real estate o bienes y raíces en Nueva York, uno de los mercados más prominentes y costosos del mundo entero. Jeff tiene más de 30 años de experiencia y su éxito ha consistido en saber balancear sus roles como agente inmobiliario, mentor, amigo y su vida familiar. Originario de Manhattan, conoce su ciudad como la palma de su mano y actualmente es experto en el mercado inmobiliario. Es especialista en todo tipo de transacciones y su carisma y don de gentes lo han llevado al éxito profesional y personal. Jeff, gracias por estar acá con nosotros y bienvenido a HKL Radio Más Internacional.
Con ustedes, un invitado estelar en Personajes.
Jeff, cuéntanos hace cuánto eres agente inmobiliario y por qué decidiste dedicarte a este negocio. So Jeff, tell us how you got involved in real estate, how long ago, and why?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to speak to the nation here today. I really appreciate it. All right, it's been a long time ago since I got involved in real estate. So let me start with why, because Most good things that happened in my lifetime happened that weren't planned, happened purely by accident. And this is one of them. I've been in real estate now for probably 35 years.
Wow.
Give or take. The bulk with Douglas Elliman here. And the question why it wasn't something I was looking for. I was living out west, born and raised in New York, living out west, came back to the city, decided I was going to come back to the city, start some type of a career. Didn't know really what I wanted to do, and I got involved with a menswear company. A friend of mine was a vice president, and he said, "Why don't you come to work for me for a while?" And I did. I came to work for him for a while, worked in menswear, and a few years there. Wasn't for me, and decided I should move on and look for something else. And I was out of work for a while. Was interested in a few different things. Was thinking about going into the film business in some form, and I stumbled upon this guy that had a small real estate business. Knew nothing about real estate at the time. He was he was doing furnished short-term rental apartments, and that seemed to be a pretty big business at that time. And so I went to work for him, and I started making very good money. All first day out of the box.
Wow.
Made money, and he would pay me as I would do a deal. He would pay me that day, and that went on for about a year and a half or so. And I decided that really wasn't what I wanted to do. That aspect of real estate wasn't what I wanted to do. So decided to look around and into other firms. And I there was a firm on the Upper East Side called Albert Ashforth. They're one of the oldest. They don't exist now as Albert Ashforth, but they were at the time. They're one of the oldest real estate firms in the industry, just like Douglas Elliman is today. Douglas Elliman started way back in the 1890s, I think. So they hired me, and they were exclusively an East Side firm. In fact, they didn't even know where the West Side was. They had no West Side brokers. They weren't doing anything, but they wanted me so I can develop some West Side business for them. So I started out in rentals, as most young people come into the real estate business do. They start that way, and then they move up. And then after about 6 months, we had a conversion project, which is, I'll explain that. It was back in the 80s and early 80s when buildings were converting from rental buildings, they were converting to co-ops. And we would put out an offering plan on it and offer the apartments to all the renters in the building, and then we would make a co-op from it. And so I worked in conversion. It was great because at that time we didn't understand this, but the entire city started to change from rental apartments to ownership apartments, and understanding the whole co-op conversion process was very fascinating to me. And so we converted this building. Right now, it's one of the more prominent buildings.
Which building?
It's 685 West End Avenue at the corner of 93rd Street. It's a really beautiful building. And when I look at the prices at that time, to give you an example, that was back in the early 80s, a 2,400 square foot, 3-bedroom apartment was selling for $72,000.
Wow.
On a high floor with light and everything. Today, that apartment is $3 million. There's an idea of how the markets have moved here.
Yeah.
So I sold up, I had about 15 or 16 or 18 apartments in the building. I sold all the apartments, and then started out.
How long it took you to sell those apartments?
Oh, how long? Well,
if you remember.
I guess it was over, a year period,
Wow.
They came and gone, they came and went. And then so that actually got me into the sales end of real estate, and I like the sales end of real estate a lot. Decided that's where I wanted to go, either work in conversions or work in the sales end.
And you've been doing this for 25 plus years, right?
30 years plus.
Oh wow!
I think.
Cool.
But the interesting thing is that I was living all the way on the Upper West Side, And their company was all the way on the Upper East Side, and I was going back and forth all day long. That's all I did was go back and forth,
crossing Central Park.
Yeah, it was, well, sometimes I'd walk, but it was a lot. It was a lot of going back and forth. I was young, I can do it, but I said to myself, maybe I should try to find a firm on the Upper West Side.
Something in the Upper West, yeah.
And so I looked around, and strangely enough, there was only one company on the Upper West Side that was doing real estate. And the name of the company was Austin K. Haldenstein. He was a great guy, great tennis player, nice guy, no longer with us. And he had about 15 brokers in the office, salespeople, brokers in the office. And they were doing sales, and we were doing rentals and things like that. And I was very happy because I now can walk to work from my home.
And that was the company that was bought by the firm that you work right now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, Austin Haldenstein, I guess, he'd been in business for a very long time, very well-respected company, very smart man. I mean, he taught me one thing. He said that there's always something to do in this business. You don't have to, just because you're not out with a client or getting an exclusive, or there's always something to do. And he's very right. It just, there's always something to do. But, Austin got up in age, and I guess, I don't know whether he was looking to sell his company, but
he did.
He did. And a family by the name of the Milsteins, which owned Douglas Elliman, bought the company, and that's where Douglas Elliman was born.
And that's how you got into Douglas Elliman.
Yes, 73rd Street and Broadway is where our offices were.
Wow.
And that's how we became Douglas Elliman.
Great.
And just to give you an idea, now, we're so much bigger now. I mean, we were 15 brokers. I think now we have in Manhattan 1,500 brokers, just Douglas Elliman alone.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
It's a whole different business now than it was back then. But however, since I've been with Douglas Elliman now, which is about 30 years, I think the people that own the firm now, it's the fifth owner. The company has been sold, I think, five times. Just recently, we had been Prudential for the last 10 years, Prudential Douglas Elliman. And then just very recently, they split off and they've taken themselves private. So we are probably the largest independent real estate company in the country right now.
Wonderful.
We have brokers, not only Manhattan, but we do all the 5 boroughs. We do all of Long Island. We do the Hamptons. We do Montauk. We do Westchester. And they seem to be expanding from there. So it's a great company. A lot of energy, a lot of brokers, and we're doing a lot of business here.
Primero que todo, gracias Angie por invitarme a tu programa. Pues te cuento que estoy dedicado a bienes y raíces desde ya hace bastante. Empecemos por el porqué. Bueno, muchas cosas en mi vida han pasado por accidente y esta es una de ellas. Después de vivir en Colorado por un tiempo en mi juventud, decidí volver a Nueva York para iniciar una carrera, pero no estaba seguro qué. Pero también necesitaba trabajo y dio la casualidad de que el vicepresidente de una prominente compañía de ropa masculina era mi amigo y me ofreció trabajar para él como asistente. Pero después de unos 2 años me di cuenta que no era para mí y casualmente me topé con un amigo que trabajaba en bienes y raíces y empecé con él rentando apartamentos amoblados por periodo corto, que en ese entonces era muy buen negocio y empecé a ganar plata el mismo día en efectivo, lo cual me encantó, pero quería hacer más que solo rentas y empecé a buscar y encontré una firma llamada Albert Ashford en el lado de este de Manhattan, una de las firmas más antiguas que ya no existe y una de las mejores, así como lo es hoy en día Douglas Elliman, que empezaron alrededor de los 1890. Así que empecé con Albert Ashford exclusivamente y como no tenían oficinas en el lado oeste y yo vivía en el lado oeste, era el único agente que trabajaba esa zona. Después de unos 6 meses empezamos un proyecto de conversión que consistía en convertir un edificio de apartamentos para renta en cooperativas y los ofrecíamos a los inquilinos y así se iba convirtiendo y en vez de inquilinos se convertían en dueños y esto mismo comenzó a ocurrir en muchos edificios alrededor de la ciudad. En ese entonces, a mediados de los años 80, un apartamento grande de 3 habitaciones se vendía por $72,000 y hoy en día ese mismo apartamento puede costar alrededor de $3 millones. Después de trabajar en este proyecto, decidí tratar de ubicarme en una oficina en el lado oeste para no tener que trasladarme tanto hacia el este y encontré una compañía llamada Austin Cablestein con 15 brokers en la oficina. Austin fue mi mentor, muy inteligente y apasionado por el negocio, y Douglas Sullivan compró esta firma y así fue que me involucré con la firma actual, la cual es una de las más respetadas de Manhattan. Jeff, explícanos por qué el mercado en Manhattan es específicamente uno de los más costosos de los Estados Unidos.
That's wonderful. You work here in Manhattan, New York. How is the market there? Why you think the real estate in New York City is one of the most, if not the most expensive of the whole country?
Well, Manhattan's great. I was lucky enough to be born and raised here, and it has tremendous advantages. New York is the way I look at it, is the center of the universe.
It is
it's certainly
the capital of the world.
It is, and it's certainly the capital of the financial world. With the stock exchanges here, and right now tech is moving into. They left California, left Silicon Valley, and they're setting up in Manhattan now. Certainly the capital of the entertainment world.
It's becoming more and more in the film as well.
Film industry, the music industry, theater industry, and there's great food. Fabulous food here. And the market here, the market is very strong because I think, the condominium business over the past couple of years has gotten extremely strong. And the foreign buyer that comes in buys condos. They don't buy co-ops. They don't really understand the theory that when you buy something, you don't really own it. You own shares of stock.
Shares.
But so they understand condominium ownership, and so there's a lot of foreign investment coming in from South America, from Asia, from the Iron Bloc countries, from Europe.
And some of them are cash offers,
yeah, a lot
right?
of them are cash, and they're buying a lot of condominiums. It doesn't seem that they can build condominiums quick enough for everybody. But it's very strong. I mean, the United States is strong in itself because our government's very, very, very stable. And but New York, California, the coast, the west and the east coasts are pretty strong.
Stable.
Yeah, yes.
New York, desde mi punto de vista, es la capital del mundo en términos financieros, las artes, film y demás. Muchos inversionistas extranjeros quieren invertir acá, todos quieren venir acá y muchos compran condominios, propiedades y comerciales. El hecho que Nueva York también esté en la costa ayuda muchísimo para la inversión. Explícanos un poco con tu experiencia a lo largo de tu trayectoria, de qué manera ha sido afectado el mercado de bienes y raíces cuando la economía colapsa. Por ejemplo, si una propiedad cuesta $3 millones, con los colapsos económicos, ¿cuánto porcentaje puede bajar el precio de esta propiedad?
Okay, you have 30 years of experience in this business. How can you explain us how the market of real estate in Manhattan was affected by the economy when the market crashes? How is this affected? For example, if a property was before $3 million, when the market crashes, how low that this property can go?
Let me think, because I've been through a lot of ups and downs here in Manhattan. I'll go back to 9/11. I mean, we can go back further than that, but, 9/11 was a tragedy, not only for New York, but for the world. I remember I was in contract. I was supposed to have a contract signing a day of that tragedy.
Wow.
It was really horrible. The buyer called up and said, I got a hold of, which I understood. It seemed that everything came to a standstill at that point. And we were all concerned. And a lot of people just said, we said, we're not buying New York, we're leaving New York.
People started
And-
to leave New York City.
Well, actually, some of them did.
And
I
then they
mean,
came back again.
Some of them did, but by and large, it wasn't like we thought would happen. And there was, I think, a period of 4 months or 6 months where, especially myself as a real estate broker, knowing how everybody was affected by it, because if you live in New York, it was such a tragedy that everybody knows somebody that might have perished that day. So I just couldn't pick up the phone to call anybody.
No.
I just sat back and said, I'm going to sit back and see what happens. And, strangely enough.
And properties dropped on price after that, or they just
they didn't
for a little while.
They did drop in price for a little while, but we bounced back from that, and we started to rebuild. And we started to get stronger, and we started noticing that people were not running away, that were staying strong, staying here. Didn't have a lot of movement in, but we didn't have movement out. And over a period of time, a year and a half, 2 years, we bounced back nicely.
Yeah, now everybody's coming back again to the city.
Well, oh yes, everybody's coming back to the city. Everybody loves to be here. It's a great place to raise your children because there's
everything here.
Diversity here is great. I'm very fortunate to raise my children here and have that diversity. But that was one drop in the market. I mean, the big drop was the economic collapse of the world. Caused by. Well, I don't want to blame any particular person for it, but it was the banks, and that in the late 2008. The market came to a standstill. In 2008, 2009. I would say in some cases, values dropped 30 to 40%. Not across the board, but there were pockets where some apartments dropped severely from that. In contrast, if I go back, and I go back to 9/11, after 9/11, the years of 2005 and 2006 and 2007 were so strong that it was incredibly strong that the values kept doubling almost every other day. Prices kept going up and up and up and up and up.
Wow.
It's unsustainable. Nothing goes straight up, without coming straight down for a while.
Right.
So the 2008 economic collapse brought prices down here.
30 to 40%, you said.
30 to 40% in some cases.
And how long that lasts?
Well, the end of 2008 and all of 2009 was very slow. And, when these things happen, buyers, I tell you, when these things happen, they're great opportunities to buy. I mean, I think you buy it's
a buyer's market.
When the market gets hit, like I'm an investor in the stock market. I would not buy the stock market today. It is so high. I'm waiting for it to adjust.
Right.
So you don't buy when it's high. You buy when it's low. And they're all cycles. They come up and they come down.
Right.
So 2008 was, end of 2008 was bad. End of 2009, 2010.
Started to recover?
And slowly we started to see prices going up a little bit. And interest rates were coming way down. And the smart buyers were jumping in the market, and they started to buy. And to give you an idea, today, and we're now just in the middle of 2014 now, so that's almost 6 years from that. I think we've come full cycle. In some cases, I have never seen prices as high as they are right now.
Top dollar.
Top dollar. Very, very low inventory in certain pockets of the city. Fierce competition for apartments when they come on the market. A lot of them have competitive bidding on them. So the market is strong. So I think right now we're in the middle of a very good upturn. The economy holds up.
It's a seller's market.
Yeah. Politically, things stay smooth, and
it's pretty much stable.
Interest rates stay down. So I think things are very strong right now.
Pues sí, he pasado por muchos altibajos acá en Manhattan y por ejemplo el caso de las Torres Gemelas que creó muchísimo pánico en Nueva York y la gente empezó a querer irse de esta ciudad y eso afectó muchísimo los precios y las ventas obviamente, pero fue solo por 6 meses aproximadamente y la gente se fue quedando y fue regresando a la ciudad. Nos recuperamos relativamente rápido. El gran colapso que sí afectó bastante, que aún no, que yo odio culpar a otros. En este caso, la culpa fue de los bancos en el año 2008. Los precios bajaron del 30 al 40% y como siempre el mercado del real estate, el mercado de bienes y raíces va a ser una curva que sube y que baja constantemente. En tu opinión, ¿cuáles son los más grandes desafíos para un agente de bienes y raíces en términos de horarios, estilos de vida, el hecho que se gana solamente por comisión?
That's how it is right now. What are the most common challenges a real estate professional usually endures in terms of schedule, lifestyle, the fact that the earnings of an agent depends on commissions?
Yes. I think it's difficult. I mean, to give you an idea, when I was teaching real estate, and I had all these kids in my class when I was doing the licensing course, and so many people come into it. Mm-hmm. And I would say to them, first of all, good morning, what are you all doing here? And you know, a lot of their answers were, oh, you know, it's God, real estate, it's so easy. You know, all you have to do is put a key in the door and turn it, and bang, you get these big commissions. And you know, I said, oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you really believe that, I think you should turn around and go get yourself a job.
Right.
You know, because that's not how it happens. It's not easy. It's extremely competitive between the people that work within your own firm. It's competitive between all the firms out there. Mm-hmm. And just to give you an idea, if I go back to the early 80s, and I said that when I went to work for Austin Haldenstein, he was the only real estate company on the entire West Side. Wow. Today, there's 340 real estate companies in Manhattan alone, with, I'd have to say, 15,000 brokers.
That's too much.
And there's a lot of brokers, and
it's basically a rat race.
Well, it's a tough business. It's you know, it's dependent. You know, yes, we are commission people, mm-hmm. and there are people that come into this business and spend a year and don't do any business and leave and say it's too tough. And some people come in and are lucky enough to do a deal. But if you're in sales, it's going to take you. You know, if you went out today and sold an apartment, it's going to take you 90 days to 120 days to close it. So
yeah,
you have to have a cushion.
Yep.
You know,
you have to have savings.
Yeah, I would say if you're thinking about coming into the real estate business, you should have a nice cushion of a year to a year and a half, where you can expect if I don't make any money, I could live and pay my bills and, you know,
right,
take care of my family and do those kind of things.
Yeah. So, what kind of personality an agent should have to really be successful in this business? It's many type of personalities, and what are the qualities that a real estate professional should have?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. There are so many different personalities. It's so diverse. It's very difficult.
Well, it's obviously not the type of person that comes from 9 to 5 to an office, sits down, and gets a paycheck in a month.
That's exactly true. It's exactly true. I think there's an expression in real estate that says anybody that goes into real estate has to have a stout heart. Mm-hmm. And that means, you know, you just have to deal with everything that gets thrown at you. Because deals, you make deals, and then the next day your deal falls apart, and then you spend a week putting it back together, and you know, and there's a lot of different things that go into being able, from the day that somebody says I agree to buy something, to sitting at a closing table and closing it. There's so much. So
right.
I don't know what kind of somewhat personality goes into it. I think you have to become a very good listener. Mm-hmm. You have to educate yourself so you can educate either your clients. I think you have to be honest mm-hmm. with them.
I'm very disciplined. A lot of discipline, right?
A lot of discipline,
because you have to take care of your own schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only good thing about it. on the schedule side is you're not 9 to 5. You can, if you have a family and you have to take your kids to school and you have to pick your kids up from school, you schedule yourself like that. I've done that.
You told me about it, that you used to take Fridays for your daughter.
I took Fridays for my daughter for...
you never worked
I didn't work
Friday.
Fridays. No. I didn't care what happened in real estate. I didn't work Fridays.
That is wonderful.
I spent my daughter went to, preschool 1, I think when she was 3 years old. And so for the first 3 years, it was Friday. And when Thursday came and Thursday was over, I was so happy I'd have Friday. I wanted that one day with my daughter that I could just spend a day with her and watch her grow and hang out. But also on the other hand, as she got older and then started getting involved in sports, and she was on the basketball team, the volleyball team, I never missed a game. I mean, that was the most important thing for me. I'd look at my watch and I'd say, oh, it's 3 o'clock. I'm out of here. Goodbye.
Wow.
And, I'd take that 2 hours.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So for me, the best.
The great side of real estate.
Yeah, for me, it was the flexibility. Having flexibility it was so important. I didn't have to travel. I didn't have to be in an office. I can be out. And I love meeting people.
Right.
No es nada fácil trabajar en bienes y raíces. No es solo vender una propiedad, es encontrarla, es negociarla. La competencia, el escaso inventario tampoco ayudan, y el hecho de que son transacciones millonarias casi siempre son bien demoradas. Sabiendo que Nueva York es casa para muchas celebridades, ¿has tenido la oportunidad de vender sus propiedades y qué tan difícil es lidiar con ellos?
And what about celebrities? Have you ever sold properties for them or have them as buyers? And how difficult were them to do business with?
Yes. I mean, over my career, actually, I've sold properties to princes of countries. I've sold properties to lots of celebrities. Actually, I can't mention names because they're very private, and I respect their privacy.
Right.
But to give you an idea, I worked with a lot of people in the entertainment business. They send me their clients, especially in the music business. I work with them. How difficult, how demanding. Difficult demanding is not an issue for me. It's not a problem for me. In fact, I respect people that are difficult demanding. They know what they want and they have expectations,
right.
And I try to fulfill them. As long as they're upfront and they're honest and they're decent, I have no problem with difficult. I treat everybody the same. Whether they're buying a $500,000 apartment or they're buying a $10 million apartment, it doesn't really matter. Everybody gets treated the same way. It's the same service.
Right.
We are a service-oriented business, and we go back. I mean, if you want to go back to the Wild West of our country here, when you had a town, you had a sheriff, and you had a storekeeper, and you had a banker, and you had a realtor. And realtors always that we perform a service. We provide housing. We really don't. I mean, nobody really looks at it that way.
Yeah.
But basically, that's what you're doing. You're providing a service for your clients, and a lot goes into it.
You are taking all the pressure for them.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of pressure. I mean, usually, a real estate transaction is going to be probably the most expensive transaction you're going to make
in your lifetime,
unless you're buying Picassos or Renoirs, But it is a lot of money, and there's a lot of buyer remorse. Did I buy the right thing? Should I buy this? Should I buy that? And you've got to guide your buyers through
right.
it. I mean, it's and also your sellers. I mean, we work both sides of the street here. Buyers a little bit more because they're the ones that are laying the money out, and they want to make sure that their investment is good. And you've got to know a lot about your buildings. You've got to know a lot about the economy. A lot to know about. You've got to have some insight to what you think is changing in the city, coming down the road. The more knowledge and more information you can give one is the best service you can do.
Sí, sí he tenido esa oportunidad, he vendido propiedades a príncipes de otros países, celebridades. Desafortunadamente no puedo decir nombres por privacidad, pero muchísima gente de la industria del entretenimiento, especialmente de la música. ¿Qué tan difícil y demandantes son? No tengo ningún problema con eso porque significa que saben lo que quieren y siempre y cuando sean decentes. Estamos para prestarles un buen servicio y así debe ser. Comprar una casa es una de las inversiones más importantes en la vida de alguien y por eso hay tantas emociones involucradas. Sé que hay dos tipos de edificios, los condominios y las cooperativas. ¿Por qué las cooperativas en Nueva York son tan comunes y cuál es la diferencia entre los dos?
About the co-ops and condos in the city that are very common. Explain us how that transformation affected the market or how the co-ops became so popular in this place.
Well, it's an interesting question because a lot of people don't know this, but prior to 1964, condominiums were not legal in New York State. They had to pass a law to allow condominiums in New York State. And it had a lot to do with vertical ownership, where you have to own the ground, you have to own the building, you have to own everything. Plus, you weren't allowed to have an existing mortgage on the structure, which is, if you can't do that, then that's a big disadvantage for a developer or for an owner. So at the same time, back in the 80s, there was a big appetite because we were a rental town. We're still a pretty big rental town. But back then, there were very few co-ops in the city. You know, very, very, very few. And back in the 80s, landlords there was an economic turn down for them. The tenants had superior rights over them. Inflation was very high, and they were losing money on their apartments. And by losing money on their apartments, if they go to sell their buildings, they would show they wouldn't show a good balance sheet. Nobody would want them. So they found that being able to convert the building from a rental by selling individual apartments to the people in the building was the way to go. And they made a lot of money because the whole thing about, we have a thing called maintenance here. And the maintenance is what the fee you pay every month. It's like a rental fee, but the maintenance fee. So what the landlords were able to do, they became sponsors. They went from being a landlord to become a sponsor. And what they were able to do, they can go to the bank and borrow $8 million and put it in their pocket, and then the interest that has to be paid, pass it on to everybody that buys the apartment as far as a maintenance fee. So they would wind up with a lot of money. And then they would sell the apartments individually to all their people. And let's look at it this way. Let's say we have a building that had 100 units in it, and only 50% of the people bought, and that's a pretty good percentage. The 50% of the people bought, they would get that money immediately from the 50% of the people. The other 50% of the people that didn't buy, those were called unsold shares. So the sponsor could go out and take another mortgage out, and then turn both mortgages into a wraparound mortgage on the structure, and then pass those maintenances on. So he would pay the maintenance and collect the rents. What happened with those apartments? The market moved so quickly, and prices kept doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. When somebody moved out, or there was an elderly person in the apartment that passed away, he would take that apartment and put it back on the market and sell it. So he had a built-in income for years and years and years and years and years. So they took these buildings that went from being bad economic investments for them, turned out to be a huge windfall. They made tons of money from it. So and everybody saw what was happening, and every single day another building went co-op. Every day there were more co-ops and more co-ops and more co-ops, and
they're very popular right now.
They're very popular right now. Yeah, they're very popular, and all the buildings. I remember because I living in the city here. I was living right on the Upper West Side. And all these buildings back in the 70s and 80s, they were horrible. They were torn awnings, and the windows were broken, the buildings were dirty, and landlords didn't have any money to fix them up because they thought, why should I put money into this building? I'm losing money here. Tenants are not paying me rent. They're not paying me rent I can get, and I have to pay all these. I have to pay the electric bills and the fuel and the mortgages and the taxes, and I'm not getting any money back from it.
So,
but now it's
yeah.
now they become beautiful buildings. Now, yeah, it's beautiful.
And based on that, the co-ops they have a board, and they have
Yes.
to qualify your buyer.
Yes, they do.
And condos are a little more lenient.
Yes.
So condos are probably better for international clients than co-ops, right?
Yes. Co-ops are great, and a lot of your co-ops are old buildings that have big, spacious apartments, and they attract families. Your condominiums are more, modern. But yes, I mean, one of the big attractions of a condominium is flexibility of ownership, because you don't have a board there. You can either buy it and rent it out for an investment, or you can buy it and live in it, and then you decide you don't want to live in it and you want to move to Paris. You can convert it to a rental a rental income property. So in a co-op you can't do that.
It has more flexibility.
Your co-op, you have to live there. They're not going to let you convert it. They'll let you sublet it maybe once, but then then you'll have to just sell it or just keep it empty. Whatever. And that doesn't make any sense to keep them empty, because you have to pay the bills every month.
Pregunta interesante. Antes de 1964 los condominios no eran legales en el estado de Nueva York. Aprobaron una ley para permitir los condominios. Los dueños estaban en desventaja con los arrendatarios, quienes tenían todos los derechos, no estaban recuperando su dinero con las rentas y vieron que la única manera de recuperar las inversiones era convertir los apartamentos a cooperativas, convertir los arrendatarios en dueños para así poder estabilizar todo, y así los dueños pagarían una mensualidad, con lo cual se pagaban los intereses del crédito a los bancos. Entonces lo que hicieron los dueños fue convertirse en padrinos, y ellos eran los que cogían los créditos del banco, y así ellos podían pagar los intereses también. Y todos felices, y así fue que se multiplicaron los co-ops en términos de inversión y ganancia para todos. Por otro lado, los condominios son más modernos y con más opciones para clientes internacionales, por la razón de que se compra el espacio físico y no acciones, como es el caso de las cooperativas. Descríbenos un día en la vida de un agente de bienes y raíces. Describe us a day of a real estate agent.
And what's the first thing you do?
I wake up and want to go back to sleep. I don't know what a regular day is. I don't think I've ever had one.
So a real estate agent doesn't really have a schedule.
We don't have a regular day. And it's to give you an idea of a regular day, I could have on my calendar everything that I need to do for that day, and when my day starts out, everything changes. And then I'll have days where I'll get up and I'll have nothing to do, and I'll think I'll have some time up for myself, and that changes. Now it becomes the busiest day I've had the entire week.
Right.
So things change in real estate a lot. All of a sudden you get a phone call from somebody, or you're in the middle of a deal, and your deal is not working out the way you want it to work out, and you got to try to put it back on track.
A lot of patience and a lot of networking. A lot of networking. What's the best networking strategy, in your opinion? They say is go out and have a beer in a bar. That's where you meet the best clients, or...
I think. Listen,
what works for you the best?
I think networking is communicating. Networking is exchanging ideas with people, and I think if you're looking to be a great networker, then you just do it wherever you go. I don't think there's a time where you don't
have to be prepared.
Yeah,
all the time.
I mean, I start conversations with people, and all of a sudden, one thing leads to the other. And the fascinating thing about networking in real estate is that it's changed a little bit. But at one time, you just mentioned to somebody you're in real estate, and they wanted to talk to you, because everybody either wants to buy something, sell something, move somewhere, or know somebody, or. So, just by going out there and just talking to people, so you network wherever you go, you network.
Especially in Manhattan, that you
especially in Manhattan.
exposed.
Yeah. People are fascinated with real estate in Manhattan, I mean, they just are. I mean, they like to talk about it.
It is fascinating because it's one of the most expensive places in the whole planet. And it's where investors want to invest, and it's a pretty stable market.
It is stable. I mean, what makes it stable is our political base. I mean, if you see what's happening now in the world, there seems to be utter chaos going on everywhere. Famine and wars and countries being taken over and political unrest, and I mean, it's crazy what's going on. Thank God we don't have that here. We're strong politically. So for a person that wants to invest their money, the States is a great place to invest their money, and real estate is one of them. And then I break that down even further. New York is one of them, because if you're going to invest your money here in New York, the return on rental property here is extremely high.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, what people pay, you wouldn't believe, for a little 12 by 10 studio apartment is $3,000 here. I mean, it's
right.
I think the only city that you'll pay more is in the UK, in London.
Yes.
In the heart of London, you'll pay a little bit more.
And that's it.
But yeah, our prices here are very, very high, and they continue to go. And I see it staying strong for a while. So so it's a great place to live. It's a great place to invest. It's a great place to come to.
Pues bueno, un día para nosotros es muy variado. No, un día puede pasar en blanco y el otro día no sabes dónde esconderte. Tiene muchísimos altibajos, pero siempre hay algo que hacer, siempre hay que leer, siempre hay muchísima gente que conocer. Hay que hacer muchísimo networking. Uno termina un día, no sabes a qué horas, siempre se empieza temprano, no sabes a qué horas terminas, pero lo más importante es que es flexible, que tú puedes organizar tu horario para estar con tu familia, para tener una vida, hobbies. Entonces eso es lo fascinante de este negocio. Jeff, habiendo nacido y crecido en Manhattan, ¿qué es lo que más amas y qué es lo que más odias de este lugar?
Right. So being born and raised in Manhattan, what do you love the most of this place, and what do you hate the most of New York?
Well, we have the most beautiful women here, so that's great. That's fabulous. No, it's what I love and what I hate. I love Manhattan. It's my home. I'm very comfortable here. You don't need a car. You can walk everywhere. But I mean, there is so much beauty here. Just walk into Central Park, the most beautiful park in the world, I think.
Yes.
We have the best schools. My daughter she went to the best schools here. We have the best entertainment base, best theaters, with great music. I'm into music. I love going out to hear music here. Great food. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, something. My brother-in-law lives out in the Midwest. He comes to New York. He hates it. He says, "How do you live here? It's crowded. It's noisy."
It's a unique place.
It is crowded.
It's not for everybody.
It is noisy, and we live in little tiny postage stamps for apartments sometimes. But just the fact that
the city is our living
here.
room.
Yes, yes, everything's here.
Everything.
I mean, everything is really here. It's really a great city.
And what you hate the most? What bothers you from New York? That probably.
You really want to know that?
Yeah.
Well,
I really want to know that.
There's not too much that bothers me about it. I think technology is one of them, and let me explain.
The pace?
Yes, the pace. New York always had a very fast pace, and I have a very fast pace. I move very quickly through space, but everybody seems to be on their handheld device.
Yeah.
They're either talking or they're texting, and when they're texting, they don't see where they're going.
Right.
So constantly, it's
slow
kind
down.
of like you have to navigate around people on their tests and just like bump into them. And nobody seems to make eye contact anymore. They're on their machines all the time. I go to other places. I travel around. I see.
And forget about
places.
Times Square.
I don't see people. Yeah, Times Square. Forget about it.
Why?
The American tourist is there.
Okay.
American tourists seems to come here and stay within about a 4-block radius. Times Square is packed. I mean, listen, I remember Times Square when I was a kid. It was beautiful. There were legitimate movie theaters in Times Square, and the most beautiful movie theaters ever.
But it used to be very pretty. That street Times Square with 40
42nd Street.
something. Yeah, the other one
42nd.
it was prostitution.
Oh yeah, big
and
time.
it cleaned up, and now it's like a Disneyland for
It is
for
like
America,
Disney.
for New York.
It is Disneyland now. It did. It went through a bad transformation. It went from legitimate, elegant movie theaters to porn.
Right.
And that's what it was. It was porn, and there were hookers there, and there were drugs there, and it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I give ex-mayor Giuliani a lot of credit that he came in and he changed things around and
Cleaned the city a lot.
Cleaned the city up a lot, and now it's extremely family friendly.
It's clean.
It's clean, and
It attracts the whole planet.
yeah, everybody. Yeah, I mean, when you're there, you think the whole planet is there. You can't walk. I mean, it is congested. It's but they did some nice things about putting in new walkways. They
Yes.
took the traffic out of certain areas, and the cars can't go, and people have what do they call these things? Places to walk. So it's nice. It's nice. It's great what they did. It's great to see it, and all the theaters are there now, and the theaters bring in a lot. Listen, without the tourists here, I don't think we can survive.
Right.
That brings in a tremendous amount of money to the city.
So for you, New York, it's one of the perfect cities to do real estate business.
Yeah, well, yeah. For me, real estate is only
It's like a bubble that is.
Yeah, I mean, real estate is only Manhattan for me. Or the boroughs. I mean, I sell in Manhattan pretty exclusively. I cover, the whole borough of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
But it's if and when I leave Manhattan, I'll be flipping my hamburgers. I will not be doing real estate.
Yes, well, you will be doing your other dream.
Yes,
that it's
that's
flipping hamburgers.
Flipping hamburgers. That's my dream.
Pues yo amo Manhattan, tenemos las mujeres más hermosas del mundo, eso es fabuloso. Me siento muy cómodo acá, no se necesita carro, se camina bastante, tiene el parque más hermoso del mundo en mi opinión, los mejores colegios, la industria del entretenimiento, los teatros, buena comida y muchísima diversidad cultural. Cuando me vienen a visitar de otros estados de Norteamérica dicen, ¿cómo puedo yo vivir acá en este sitio tan congestionado, tan ruidoso, donde vivimos en apartamentos muy pequeños? Pero yo les contesto, es que todo está acá. La ciudad es nuestra sala. ¿Qué odio de acá? La adicción de la gente a la tecnología, caminan y textean al mismo tiempo. La ciudad de Nueva York tiene una velocidad que hay que respetar y seguir y ya no hay contacto visual. También todo el mundo está pegado a sus electrónicos 24 horas al día. Los turistas americanos que caminan bien lento, que no saben a dónde ir, no los europeos, ellos son muy organizados en turismo, pero los turistas americanos cuando vienen a Nueva York alentejan la velocidad de la ciudad. Pero sin turismo no se podría sobrevivir tampoco acá. El turismo brinda muchísimo dinero a Nueva York.
Yeah, New York is great. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for being with us today in HKL International Radio. You have a great day, and we hope to see you next time. We're gonna probably have a second part for this interview.
Oh, part two. Look forward to it. Thank you very much for your time.
Personajes.
Jeff, thank you so much for being with us today on HKL International Radio. It was very interesting to know about the real estate business in Manhattan, New York, and very fun the way you explained it. And many thanks to all of you out there that are always tuned in with us. Don't forget the repetition of this interview next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Time to say goodbye. I send you all of you a kiss. My name is Angie Mera. Please meet me back here the last Sunday of June. This show was produced by Alejandro Gómez. Bye. Jeff, muchísimas gracias por estar hoy con nosotros en HKL Radio Más Internacional. Muy interesante y fascinante el mundo de bienes y raíces en la ciudad de Nueva York. Y a nuestros oyentes, mil gracias por sintonizarnos. No se les olvide la repetición de esta misma entrevista el siguiente domingo a las 2 p.m. hora Colombia. Me despido con un beso bajo la dirección de Alejandro Gómez. Soy Angie Mera. Nos escuchamos otra vez el último domingo de junio. Chao.
HKL Radio Más Internacional presentó Personajes, con la entrevista internacional de Angie Mera y la dirección de Alejandro Gómez. Los invitamos a una próxima oportunidad. Personajes.